and that our species didn't have, like sensing ultraviolet, sensing infrared. There's animals that can actually also feel the magnetic waves. Others can sense electricity without having to touch it. So I was really fascinated about the amount of senses that other species have and that our species don't have. So I was interested in extending my perception of reality to the level of other animal species. And I was particularly interested in extending my perception of color. There's many colors that surround us, like infrareds and ultraviolets, that we cannot sense, but the technology can sense. So I was interested in actually adapting technology to my body in order to be able to perceive these colors that surround us. So I thought of creating a new body part, and when I looked at nature, I saw that there's many animals that have body parts that we don't have. One of them is an antenna. So I thought that it would be perfect to have an antenna implanted in my head that would allow me to extend my perception of color beyond the visual spectrum. So the aim was to create this chip that is now actually implanted inside my head, and it allows me to feel the vibrations of color from infrareds to ultraviolets. Color is a light frequency. You can see the light frequency, but the frequency can also be transformed into a vibration that if it goes into your head, then you can actually hear different sounds for different colors. So since 2004, I can now perceive colors that surround me beyond the visual spectrum. So if there's an infrared in a room, I feel a vibration, and then I know if there's movement detector, so I can go to a shop or a bank and tell if the alarms are on or off. And in many cases, they're off, so it's interesting to sense this. Also, ultraviolet allows me to detect if it's a good day or a bad day to sunbathe. So if I sense there's a lot of ultraviolet, then I just don't sunbathe or I put some cream. Then the aim also was to add a fourth implant that is internet connection so that I can also receive colors from external devices. So if someone wants to send a color to my head, they can use their mobile phone and then stream live images from wherever they are to my head. So if there's a beautiful sunset in Australia, my friend from Melbourne can stream live images to my head, so I could be here, but I could be feeling the vibrations of color from another part of the world. Or also, if they send colors at night, my friends can color my dreams. So if someone starts sending blue vibrations at night, then my dream suddenly becomes blue. So in a way, my friends can influence my dreams, or they can color my dreams by sending colors to my head. The aim is also now to use this internet connection to extend my perception of color beyond this planet and connect to satellites so I can sense colors from space. So this is, in this case, is the use of the internet as a sense, which is something that I think we'll start seeing much more in the 2020s, how we start using the internet not so much as a tool or as a communication tool, but more as a sensory extension that allows us to feel things that are far away from ourselves. This is an MRI scan of my head, so now the union between cybernetics and my body has created a new sense, which I call the sonochromatic sense, where sounds are colors and colors are sounds. So I feel cyborg because the union between my body and technology is cyborgian. It's cybernetics and organism are united and are creating a new sense. And this is what I tried to explain to the UK government in 2004, because they didn't allow me to renew my passport, because there's a law that says electronic equipment is not allowed on passport photos. So they saw that in my picture there was something electronic. And I replied saying that this was not an electronic device, that I am not using technology, I'm not wearing technology, I am technology. And I told them that I was a cyborg and that they should allow me to appear in the passport photo with the electronic device, what they called. And in the end, they allowed me. This is the first passport in 2004, and then the photograph was renewed when the actual antenna was fully implanted. I am now actually applying for Swedish citizenship because the material I used to create the antenna is Swedish, so I'm telling them that I am Swedish because I have a body part that is Swedish. So hopefully they will reply and they'll say yes. If this happens, then it might become a trend that if you have a body part that is from a specific country, you should also be entitled to apply for citizenship, especially if you've been, in my case, I've had a Swedish body part for over 10 years now, so I think I should be entitled. So since I hear colors, I can now compose music by looking at things. I don't need to play an instrument. I can just place different colors in front of me, and depending on how I look at the colors, I can create music, because each color creates a vibration that becomes a sound. So I can create color concerts where I amplify the sounds from my head to the audience, and then I look at different objects and create color concerts. So my experience of walking around the world has changed because I hear music all the time because there's color everywhere, all around me. So I really enjoy walking around supermarkets because there's a lot of colors there, so there's a lot of music in supermarkets. So walking around a supermarket is like going to a nightclub for me because there's so many different colors, especially the aisles with cleaning products. That's the most exciting area of any supermarket. Milk is silent, for example. Elements that have no hue, have no sound. And also paintings have changed and clothes has changed. I can now also design clothes so that I can wear specific melodies. This is electronic music transposed into colors, so I can wear a tie that sounds, when I look at it, it sounds like electronic music. So the longer the tie, the longer the melody, so you can decide how long. And also paintings have changed. I can now listen to a Picasso, I can listen to an Andy Warhol, I can go to an art gallery and listen to the different paintings. So it's changed completely the experience of art. Also, the way I see people has changed. When I look at someone, I hear their face. So I like doing sound portraits, where I write down the sound of the eyes, the skin, the lips, and the hair, and then I send them an MP3 of their face. The first one I did was of Prince Charles. I asked him if I could listen to his face, and this was his reaction when I asked him. Each person sounds different. So, for example, Al Gore has different colors in his eyes. It's different shades of turquoise, so he has different sounds in his eyes. Judi Dench has silent hair. Bono had very loud glasses here. So everyone has its own harmony in the face. What really shocked me is the people who say they're black, they're not black, and people who say they're white, they're not white. People who say they're black, they're actually very, very dark orange, and people who say they're white, they're very, very light orange. So the fact that people say that humans are black and white is completely false. We are all different shades of orange. So now since 2013, I'm experimenting the connection of my head to space. Internet connection allows me not only to receive colors from other parts of the world, but to connect to NASA's International Space Station live stream. So when I do that, my sense of color is out in space, and then I can explore space without having to go there. I can explore the colors from space. I can sense the extraterrestrial colors while being here. And I think this is something we'll also start seeing in the 2020s, how we can start exploring space by sending our senses to space. So instead of physically going to space, we could send our senses to space and think or feel that we are there. And even in a few decades, we'll be able to 3D print ourselves with DNA 3D printers in other planets, so we can have our bodies in Mars by printing ourselves. And then we can use the internet to extend our senses to our second bodies, so we can explore space, we can travel to space without physically traveling to space. I call this becoming a senstronaut or a mindstronaut, by having our senses or mind in space while our body is on Earth. One of the latest projects I've done is that I have a tooth missing, so I had it replaced with a tooth with a small light inside, so that in case of emergency, I can just click and then I have emergency light in my mouth. So if you have any teeth missing, instead of having it replaced with a normal tooth, you can also have it replaced with a small light inside your tooth so that you could have some bioluminescence. This is something that many species have. In case of total darkness, they can create light. And we also created another tooth system with a friend of mine where she has a tooth in her mouth. I have another one placed. And if I click, she receives a vibration in her mouth. So we use it through a system that if she clicks, then I also receive the vibration in my mouth. So we both know the Morse code. So if I click in a certain pattern, she can then understand what I'm telling her, and she can then send messages to my mouth as well. We call this the transdental communication system, and it might be useful if we ever try to survive in space, because in space there's no air conduction, we might not see each other, we might not be able to touch each other, so communicating through vibrations will be useful. It's also useful under the water because there's no air conduction. And actually, it's using Bluetooth, so it's actually a Bluetooth tooth that allows you to communicate with other people. My current project, and the last one, is I'm going to add a new sense to my body. It's going to be the sense of time. We all have a sense of time, but we don't have an organ for the sense of time. So I'm creating a small implant that will be surrounding my head. It will be between the skin and the bone, and it will create heat, and it will go around slowly, and it will take 24 hours for the heat to go around my head. So I will have a clock in my head, but this will allow me to know exactly what time it is by feeling the heat around my head. Now, the question is whether or not this becomes my perception of time. If this happens, then in a few years, I'll be able to control if I want time to go faster or slower, if I control the heat, and I want the situation to go faster, I can make the heat go a bit faster. Or if I want to travel in time, I can then make it go twice forward or twice backwards. If I'm on a plane, I can also put it on flight mode so that I travel at the same speed as the plane, and I might have less jet lag. So it's basically taking Einstein's theory of time relativity into a sense, into an organ, and see whether or not we can control our perception of time if we have an organ for time. This is it. I think we are in a very special moment in history where we can be part of the design of what species we want to be. It's no longer just what gender we want to be, it's also what species we want to be. We can add senses and organs that don't traditionally belong to our species, but that they might allow us to extend our perception of reality and feel that we are more connected to Earth and to other species. I think for thousands of years, we've been a species changing the environment. We've been designing things such as this, artificial light in order to see at night. It would make much more sense to have night vision in order to see at night. If we had night vision, we wouldn't be wasting so much energy. All the cities would be dark. We would be able to see the stars. So if we start designing ourselves, it will be much better for the environment and for other animal species. Thank you very much.
Neil Harbisson, thank you very much.